Hi! I've been in a Halloween kind of mood lately, so here's a Halloween game for you. Dead by Daylight is a game I never thought I'd get into, but here I am. It's an asymmetrical multiplayer game where 4 survivors are pitted against 1 killer in a race for survival. The 4 survivors have to repair generators to power the exit gate so they can escape. The killer has to kill them. There are a bunch of different killers you can play, Ghostface from Scream, Freddy Krueger, the Rain Girl, but the game has original characters too. For example, a deranged K-pop star who went nuts and killed a bunch of people. Okay, the K-pop industry is a meat grinder, so it's only a matter of time before something like this happens in real life, and then the game devs will have to remove this character for being related to a real crime. I mean, it's not like crushing expectations, abusive managers, unfair contracts, and horrible treatment can occasionally cause people to go nuts. Yeah, just keep making those pretty music videos. This is perfect. Subtle commentary baked right into the game. But getting back on track, I didn't think I'd like this game. In fact, I avoided it like the plague, but a friend of mine really wanted to get me into the game and ended up buying a couple of characters for me. Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, and on the Survivor side, Nicolas Cage. Yep, okay, I'm sold. I get to watch Nick Cage scream in terror running away from a serial killer. He even voices himself.
Sadako, not you. Sadako, wait a minute, I live with Sadako. I mean, it's okay.
Here's why I told myself I wouldn't like this game. On the Survivor side, you can't really win. I mean, you don't get any weapons, you can't fight the killer, you can only survive. So it's a hopeless situation. On the killer side, I thought it would just feel like a power trip where I'm slaughtering a bunch of lambs, and I didn't think that would be any fun either. Believe it or not, I'm not a win at any cost kind of person. I mean, I don't go out of my way to make sure my enemy has fun too, but it's not really in my nature to kill people because they're alive. But after playing a few dozen games and getting some experience as both survivor and killer, I can say that my preconceived notions were garbage. The survivors have many tools to fight back against the killer, and it isn't just a slaughter. In general, the survivors are just faster and have all the tools they need to undo anything the killer does. Not to mention, it's always a 4 versus 1 match, so the killer is guaranteed to be outnumbered. The killer plays the game in first person, while the survivors play in third person, giving them a huge advantage in terms of situational awareness. There's also the heartbeat. The closer the killer is, the faster and louder your heart beats, letting you know when the killer is near, even if he isn't chasing you. Survivors can clamber over stuff, drop boards to create an obstacle, hide in lockers, shine flashlights in the killer's eyes to blind them momentarily, stuff like that. As a survivor, you win by powering the exit gates and escaping. So running around, wasting the killer's time and obstructing him feels like winning just as much as shooting him with a shotgun would. Especially if your fellow survivors put that borrowed time to good use. It feels amazing to watch the other survivors complete generators while the killer is busy chasing you. And even if you're caught, it's not the end. The killer can't just stomp your head and be done with it. He has to hang you on these meat hooks to kill you. Once you're on a hook, you have a certain amount of time before dying, during which another survivor can run up and unhook you. If your timer runs out, you die. If you get hooked 3 times, you die. While a killer is carrying a survivor, they can wiggle to try and escape. This causes the killer to stagger around and not move the way they want to, but they can usually hang you up if the survivors don't sabotage the hook or make the killer drop you by blinding him. See what I mean? Despite how big and scary the killers are and how hopeless the situation might look, the survivors have a ton of ways to keep the killer at bay and run circles around him. Literally. And I haven't even gotten to perks yet. Perks are another way the game twists things around. Both survivors and killers can equip up to 4 perks which alter how they play. I'm not going to cover all of these because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of them, and I guess thousands of possible combinations, but the point is there are a lot of ways to tailor the game to fit your style. Now you might be thinking that the game has the opposite problem, that it's still an unfair game, but that the balance is tilted in the survivor's favor. And in that respect, some people might agree with you. I'm not nearly good enough to state definitively which side has more advantages, but in almost every game I've played, it goes at the survivor's pace, and the killer is just sort of along for the ride. In general, if you and your fellow survivors are working together, there's no reason most of you shouldn't get out. I mean, the game is built around 4 versus 1 matches, so you'll always have a numbers advantage as a survivor. As a killer, things aren't impossible. Each killer has a special superpower that they can use to get the job done. The K-pop guy I mentioned before can throw a barrage of knives at survivors to damage them from a distance, which shuts down looping pretty hard in my experience. There's no need to get close to pallets when I can just pelt you with these little things. Pinhead can summon magic chains to bind survivors and slow them down, giving him a chance to catch up. The Skull Merchant is a very unpopular killer. I've had games before where all but one survivor disconnected just because they saw I was playing Skull Merchant. They weren't even sore losers. I wasn't winning. They left the moment they saw me. I wish I could pretend it's because I'm so good, but I think some survivors are just bad sports. Cheers to that one guy who stuck around though, he ended up escaping. I don't have access to all the killers, you do have to buy them, but the ones I have are fun. Let's dial it back a minute. Like I said before, my friend who wanted me to get into this game bought me a Nick Cage and a Pinhead. Pinhead is classified by the game as a very hard killer. His power is weird and clunky, and while he can be really effective, you gotta know what you're doing. So naturally, I decided to only play Pinhead when I started playing killer mode. The other ones just seemed boring to me at the time, and I wanted to kind of dive in at the deep end. I got a lot of really negative experiences out of the way early, and my first few matches as Pinhead thoroughly eliminated my notion that the survivors were just helpless lambs. I constantly found myself getting stunned by pallets, blinded, hooked, sabotaged, and all 4 survivors escaping after spending a few minutes teabagging at the exit gates, of course, and it was entirely frustrating. My sympathy for the poor, innocent lambs basically evaporated, since they have both the potential and the will to be very annoying if you give them an inch. I've actually had a few survivors call me out for tunneling, which is basically when you focus only on one survivor and kill them, rather than spreading the love between all 4 of them. All I can say is that I've never intentionally tunneled anyone, unless they were really annoying on purpose, in which case all bets are off. Look, I get that it's fun to outsmart the killer, but if you drop a pallet and then waste time teabagging just to rub it in, you're asking for it. My job is to kill you, don't get mad at me for doing my job. The best one was when I was just playing normally, not even thinking about it, kind of zoning out, and at the end of the match one of the survivors told me to lose the ego and stop tunneling. No idea what I did. Am I expected to go out of my way to make things harder for myself just so I don't arbitrarily chase one survivor too much? I don't know. The whole concept just sounds like a bunch of sore losers talk to me. Don't like losing? Learn how to win. Okay, I have to stop. Nobody here ordered wine. The point is, I have a lot of fun playing both modes, and it only ever feels like an unfair stomp when there's a clear difference in skill. I want to emphasize, I'm not very good at either mode, but the game is balanced enough that as long as you have some idea what you're doing, it's very feasible to win. My favorite killer perk is Lightborn, which makes you immune to flashlights. Oh yeah, that feels good. Some survivors are just flabbergasted when they realize I have this perk. They somehow never expect it and keep waving the flashlight around like it's gonna do anything. Should've brought a medkit, loser. Yeah, I'm a killer main. I can't escape it, and I don't want to. I'm a simple man. It's fun to just throw things at people. So yeah, have a happy Halloween, enjoy your candy, and if you get your hands on a flashlight, do all us killer mains a favor and just throw that thing in the fire.